I notice your opponent is spending a fortune on ads trying to recreate herself as a moderate, pro-cop, doesn't mention Biden, doesn't mention Pelosi. Why don't they ever run on their records? Why won't Val Demings run on her record?
Because the record is built on today's Democratic Party, the base of it, the core of it, right? The people who send them all this money. She's outraised me. The people who knock on their doors, knock on doors for them. People who do all the activist base are made up of two groups. One group are these sort of laptop NPR liberals who are completely out of touch with reality. They live in their little bubbles. They have a lot of power. I mean, they control a lot of big institutions in our country. And then the other group that's a big part of their base are what I call these Marxist misfits. And that's what they are. There's no other way to describe them. People think Marxism, you know, they confuse socialism as an economic model. It's part of Marxism, but Marxism is about controlling every aspect of your life, you know, controlling schools, the media, the public narrative. They have to be superior to the family. They have to be superior to religion. Everything has to be subservient to the state. So these are the core of their Democratic Party. And so in order to succeed in today's Democratic Party, you have to be for the agenda that those groups are for. So they go to Washington and they vote like Demings has, 100% with Pelosi. You know, she even not just co-sponsored, but voted for this very radical, virtually communist budget. And in her first 2 years there, and then they come back home. They raise all their argument is this: we can vote like leftists, and then we'll raise enough money to confuse people and campaign like a centrist. And that's what she tries to do. But it's not unique to Florida. You see it time and again all over the place.
Now let's talk about Florida. I think Florida is not just the freest state, it's the freest place on the face of the earth as far as I can tell. And yet your opponent, others running in Florida and so forth, they're not just regular Democrats, whatever that means anymore. They are radicals who would radically change the state of Florida. And in the case of your opponent, she would fit right in with the radical agenda of the Democrat Party, whatever it is: abortion, partial birth on demand, open borders, spending like radical Marxists, undermining our military, undermining our police force, and so forth. I can't imagine the people in Florida, many of whom just moved here in the last 5 or 10 years, are going to put up with that. Am I wrong?
No, they wouldn't, and that's why they don't campaign on that stuff, right? If you watch her commercials, the only thing she wants you to know about her is that a long time ago she used to be a police chief. That what she doesn't tell you is that she got to Congress and she voted to do things like, you know, adding a $10 tax to every barrel of oil. It's about 35 cents per gallon for every American. She voted to zero out the war against terror. She voted to gut the military spending by $1 trillion. She voted to increase taxes by $9 trillion. And then she also doesn't tell you things like the other day she says, well, we need more boots on the ground when it comes to the border. But when you press her on it, what she really means is they need more loafers on the ground. What she wants is more processors, not more border agents, not more National Guard. She wants processors to help process people. And we're talking about 4.4 million people have illegally entered the United States since Joe Biden went into the White House. That's 5 times the size of her congressional district. And she says that there's no real big problem down there. It's not a crisis and the like. So these are not things they're going to campaign on. They're never going to tell you that's what they stand for, but that's what their record is for. Sadly, we have a traditional media that's very compliant. They never cover any of these things. If I had voted for anything like that, that's all you would hear about on the daily newscasts. So they get the help of the media, and of course they're raising all this money to lie to people on their commercials. But I think Floridians will see through it.
Now, Joe Biden was seriously considering her as a running mate. He wouldn't consider her as a running mate unless he felt that she would agree with everything that he was doing. Isn't that right?
Well, she's voted with Pelosi 100%. That's why Schumer wants her in the Senate. But you know why Biden didn't pick her? Because she used to be a police officer. And that's why she spent 6 months basically attacking the police. When they asked her, she talks tough on police now because she wants to get elected. But when they asked her in 2020, when they were burning police cars and there was riots and talk of defunding the police, and they asked her, what do you think about what Minneapolis is doing with defunding? She says, I think they're being very thoughtful. I think they're being very thoughtful. She also voted for a bill and supported a bill that would allow you to sue police officers as individuals, not the department, the individual police officers. So you can just imagine the harassment that would happen there. Now, of course, she wants to paper over that and walk away from it, but that's not how she was talking back in 2020. So she would absolutely be a compliant voice. But understand that when Biden was considering her, if he really was, the knock on her from the left was that she used to be a police officer, and she tried to cleanse herself of that by becoming anti-police. But that's why 57 of our 66 sheriffs support me. That's why every police group in Florida supports me and not her.
Finally, Senator, what would you say to the people of Florida and the United States about why you should be reelected?
Well, let me just first say that in my time in the Senate, I've actually gotten important things down, and I've outlined that repeatedly. All the changes to the VA. I've done more on China than anybody else. That's why they sanctioned and banned me. The Paycheck Protection Program literally saved millions of small businesses in our country. My opponents never passed into law a single measure, one single bill. So there's the effectiveness angle. But beyond it, think about this. If Val Demings was in the Senate instead of me right now, the federal government would control our elections. The Supreme Court would have been packed. We would have had $4.5 trillion of wasteful spending that would have juiced up the inflation even worse. The border would be as bad or worse than it's been today. We might even have full-scale amnesty. I mean, you go down the list of things that would have happened, and abortion on demand paid for by taxpayers would have been the law of the land, federal law superseding the states. That's all the things they would have passed with just one more vote in the Senate. My vision is this. We're going to get there, and number one, we're going to stop bad things from happening. Number two, we're going to pass things that make sense for the American people, more energy production, focus on China, the real threat in the 21st century. And number three, we're going to hold this administration accountable. Now, on point number two, we're going to pass good things. We'll see if Biden vetoes them or signs them. Maybe he'll get confused and sign them. But that'll be up to him, and the American people will hold them accountable for that. But we need to have oversight hearings on the conduct of the FBI, on the conduct of the Department of Homeland Security, on all these federal bureaucracies that are targeting conservatives and running loose, and there's no one holding them accountable for that.
Amen, Senator, and I wish you all the best. You already got one vote, mine. And
Thank you.
And good luck on the campaign trail. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. God bless.